Welcome to another edition of Trucker Tools Talks. Every week, we're interviewing people from across the trucking industry for business tips and updates on what's happening in the market. Today, we're joined by Barry Fowler, president and founder of Trucker Tax Tools. Thanks for speaking with us today, Barry.
Matt, it's great to be here. Enjoy your show every week, and looking forward to talking taxes with you.
Really appreciate it. And to kind of kick things off, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, including how long you've been working with truckers?
Well, I've been working with truckers, and we'll start out this way, for over 20 years. We've been helping them with bookkeeping and taxes. We really got deeply involved with truckers when we were getting really deep into tax resolution, solving IRS problems. And truckers have had so many IRS problems, it's been crazy. We launched Trucker Tax Tools, mainly by a request from a lot of those truckers that we were doing the resolution for, and said, hey, can you fix our bookkeeping and can you do our taxes every year? And so Trucker Tax Tools kind of grew out of that into where we're doing the bookkeeping and taxes. And we still do a lot of IRS problem resolution for those truckers that are in debt with the IRS or happen to go through an audit or maybe never filed for the last 5 or 10 years. Imagine that.
I'd be rich if I had not filed for a while, but that's definitely not good advice. What are some of the most common tax-related mistakes that you do see owner-operators or small carriers making?
You know, one of the biggest ones we find is no bookkeeping. I mean, they don't keep records. I mean, it's really hard on the road. I mean, you know, we see people, you know, every day, you go to a truck stop and you stop and you fill up with gas and you got that little receipt in your hand. What do you do with it? And half the time it throws on the next seat next to you or on the floor, and then you're cleaning it out and you throw it away and you have no record of what you actually spent the money on. And so, you know, a lot of our programs have been developed around getting that bookkeeping, whether it's through our in-house bookkeeping or even using our app at truckertaxtools.com to do the bookkeeping for you and keep track of those things. I mean, we've got a great relationship with Duke AI, who powers our app, that, I mean, it becomes really simple. If you got a phone, you can take a picture of it and be done and submit it right up into the app, and the bookkeeping's made easy. So we find that as being one of the big keys. And we also find where truckers, if you haven't filed in a number of years, or you're into trucking and all of a sudden you go to file and you find out you may owe $5,000 or $10,000, you don't file that return and then nothing happens. They don't file the next several years. So, you know, sometimes that snowball effect of, you know, finding out you didn't get caught filing the first one, and it just keeps rolling downhill until you actually have a huge mountain that you can't climb, and the IRS comes knocking on your door, you know, waiting for that. And third is actually dealing with people that don't know trucking. You know, you get a tax preparer out there that has no clue about how to deduct per diems, or that your settlement statement actually have expenses that you should be deducting out there, and they're not looking at those settlement statements to see what expenses you've been incurring on the road that the trucking companies are deducting from the settlements you get. So those are some of the major issues that we've been seeing out there in the trucking industry.
All the things that everybody needs to watch out for. And what would you say is different for truckers about taxes this year compared to years prior?
Well, you know, there's not really much. You know, the deadline for COVID got extended to May, unless you were in Texas, Louisiana, I think one other state out there, gets extended out to June because of cold weather. You know, 1 week of cold weather gives you an extra month extension. There you go. Some things the IRS doesn't make sense. But different for truckers, you know, compared to previous years, there's really not that much from one year to the next. But trucking is very different from any other independent contractor, small business, with their per diems and some of the other deductions that we get to take, you know, on those tax returns, because you are a trucker and you've got to know to watch out for them.
You've mentioned the per diem a couple times. What is the best way for the owner operator to take the per diem?
Keep track of your days, how many days you're on the road. When do you leave home? When do you get back at home? And what are the days, in between? Because of the rate you can take the per diems at. ELD logs sometimes are really, really good for that. In our app, we're working on some features that will start helping to track those per diems a little bit better than what you get in your ELD log, or that you could even do manually. And then, on the tax return, you're only going to get 80% of it. Now, there is one thing new, and this isn't just for truckers, but it's for other industries as well. When you're going out and you're doing meals and entertainment, there are certain meals at restaurants, and you have to be at a restaurant that'd be 100% deductible. So if you are out there talking to another trucking company or something, and you happen to go out for a meal, those could be 100% deductible, for you. But you want to talk to your tax preparer, make sure you're doing it right and get the right documentation so that you don't lose the deduction, or you don't, screw it up with your per diems as well.
Great tips there. What are some of the tips that you might have for a fleet or an owner operator that's looking to reduce their chance of having to go through that audit process with the IRS?
We work with various sizes of trucking companies, and depending on your size would really depend on what we would develop for you to avoid audit chances. If you're a small trucking company and you're, on Schedule C and you're not making a lot of money in it, you can probably stay over there and your audit chances aren't as big, but you want to make sure all your deductions are documented very, very well. Whether you do in-house bookkeeping, whether you use an app for bookkeeping, whether you use us for bookkeeping, we tell you to use somebody that knows trucking and do it right. Now, if you're a larger trucking company, we try to quantify that based on net earnings and sometimes on gross revenue, because whether you use us or you use somebody else, it becomes a little more expensive to be an S corp or even to be a multi-member LLC, because you have more tax returns you got to do, or you may have to have payroll if you're an S corp. And so you got to make sure it's going to make sense and save you some money. And that's one of the things we go through and figure out is, does it make business sense to move you from a Schedule C sole proprietor to either a multi-member LLC or even an S corp, because of the fees that are involved that you're going to incur, to run your business the right way. And people have to be conscious of what the fees are and does it make business sense. And so we go through and develop those. Now, the audit risks become a lot less when you're an S corp, because the audit rates are less than, roughly 1%. Whereas a Schedule C, you may have a triple or 5 times that chance of being audited. And the IRS also thinks that anybody that's running a Schedule C business is lying, cheating, and stealing, even when they're not. We see that in some of the audit rates that we see for S corps, and some of the things these IRS agents think, don't make 100% sense for you and I as a common person, but it makes sense to them because somebody's told them that every sole proprietor is taking cash, and that doesn't happen in the trucking business. You're going to get a settlement statement, or you're invoicing, or you're doing something else, and it is what it is, but those audit rates increase.
You've touched on some of the do's and don'ts, regarding audit risk in dealing with the IRS. As a company, as Trucker Tax Tools, what are some of the services that you guys do provide specifically to the owner operators and the trucking companies?
It's really nice. We've actually put a program together that is just for truckers. We do about 99% of the businesses we do bookkeeping for are truckers. I've got 1 or 2 that have begged me to pick them up and do their books for them that are not truckers. But those are few and far between. They got to beg really hard for us. We've got some experts in the trucking industry that do the bookkeeping, both in-house and through our app. We monitor both the app and what we're doing here. But when you sign up for it with us and you use us, we're not just doing bookkeeping. We're talking to our truckers that are on the road. We're finding out what's going on in their business to try to help them to find ways to grow. We run what we call is our profit maximizer, and we're also running what we call our tax minimizer. Those kind of things kind of conflict against each other in some ways, because you're maximizing your profit, you're also probably increasing your tax. But there is a way to do it smart. You got to have, the business sense to figure out where the happy medium is. And some of the things that we get them to do to take deductions are purely to minimize their taxes, but don't necessarily count against them on their profit and loss when they go to a bank. So you got to have proper presentation of those financial statements. And the real nice thing is when you are a bookkeeping client of ours, we have all-inclusive pricing, meaning that your state income tax return, your federal income tax return, your corporate tax return, all those will be included in our fee. So we try to make it simple. You're not getting gouged at any point in time to say, hey, these are, you now got to pay for this, or you're not going to pay for that. So we try to keep it as simple as possible for the truckers so they know what their expense is going to be throughout the year.
I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And we understand, taxes for a lot of people, especially a new business owner, can be a very scary thing. And, like you mentioned, especially if you've gone, a year or two without filing or fixing money that was owed prior. So, definitely want to encourage everybody listening. It's something that you want to get ahead of sooner rather than later. We're always looking for good partners out in this world. So really appreciate all that you guys are doing and contributing to the industry. Nice, clean, easy pricing is always valuable to our user group there.
We found that to be really good for our truckers and our friends out there. Now, the other things that we do here at Taxation Solutions Trucker Tax Tools is help with IRS problems. So, if somebody's in debt with the IRS, we're here to fix that problem. We've done a lot for people where, you hear the commercials out there on TV for resolution, and we kind of laugh about them. They make it sound like almost everybody qualifies for an offer and compromise or to settle their debt for, oh my God, let's use that quote I heard, pennies on the dollar. Well, not everybody, as you know, and it's really a bad term. Yes, we can settle for, $100 on a large debt. We can settle for, 1%, 2%, 5%, 50%. The numbers out there vary, but not everybody gets a settlement, because if you're making good money, the IRS wants their money regardless. So you kind of got to watch who you deal with. Our tax consultants will go through, a free consultation with them. When they call, you can call the same number, 877-966-2477, and you can talk about trucker bookkeeping. You talk about trucker taxes. We can talk about tax resolution for the trucking industry, and that call is absolutely free consultation. We want to make sure it makes sense for you as a driver and for your business, and know that it's going to be done right and financially sound way for you.
Oh, really good there. And Barry, we appreciate you joining us today, sharing your knowledge. Definitely encourage everybody, go to the website, place a phone call, get ahead of all of these things. You definitely don't want to be chased by the IRS. It's never good for anybody involved. And we appreciate all of the audience for tuning in for another edition of Trucker Tools Talks. If you have someone in mind that you'd like us to interview, or you have any questions for us, or about any of the products that we talk about on here, use the comments box to let us know. Barry, really appreciate you. Thanks for jumping on.
Matt, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if anybody needs more information, again, it's truckertaxtools.com. And that phone number is 877-966-2477. Give us a call. It's a free consultation. Look forward to talking to all your friends and truckers out there. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Barry. Take care.
You too.